Your team and welcome to DayZ on PS5. Welcome to my modded server, and welcome to this new series. And I'm going to be calling this series DayZ builds. And what we're going to cover here is we're going to cover some base builds, like this, which is currently in progress. So, as you know, this is my modded server, and I'm going to need some space. I'm going to need a space on my server to do things. I need vehicles. I have vehicles. I need stuff. I do content. I need to get stuff together. All that kind of jazz. And I need an administrative base. And this is the layout of my initial administrative base. Now, I want to take you through a few things with this build in particular and show you this build. And this is by no means a complete version. This is just stage one. And there may be later expansions which move out. There's a nice big flat piece of land. And there may also be others. As part of this series, what I also want to do is have a look at the technical aspects of base building, have a look at the tools, have a look at the equipment, the materials, the kind of tasks that you need to go through, the kind of thinking. It's absolutely not as straightforward as you might at first think, and there's certainly things you need to take into account. And there is always time to learn and new things to learn. And this took a little while to set out. It's not too bad. It lines up okay. It doesn't line up 100% perfectly in all places. I'm going to admit that you can't get all these posts 100% at the time, but there are ways to mitigate some of those issues with other things that we can do in the future. So I want to have a look at some of these things. I want to share some of these things with you because you might be thinking of building bases for the first time. And I'll also share some of the things like the weaknesses of a base like this, for example, where you're doing this on official and you had to worry about people actually attacking the base or doing something with the base. On my server, this is an administrative base, which means it's going to be off limits to anyone, so I don't need to really worry about that. But up in the mainland, we can have a look at different kinds of bases. What if you want to build a base in a tower block, which I've done before in Livonia? What if you want to build a base in a barn, which I've done before in Chinaris? What if you want to just have a kind of an outdoorsy base, which is tents or shelters or various other bits and pieces? And I've done some videos on the different kinds of shelters that you can build and the various things you need to build with those. Those kinds of things, if those are the kinds of things that you want to do. So that's what this series is about, and I'll go through some of these things. This is a work in progress, and we'll go through this work in progress, and I'll take you through this work in progress from where we are here to where we're going to get to. But let's start with item number one. Where am I going to build my base? Well, there's a couple of things to be aware of. I mean, I've picked this place because it's flat. Now that has pros and cons associated with it, because if it's flat and open all around, it means it's very easy for people to come, and you can build a watchtower next to a wall and you can climb over it. It's not actually that hard. We'll be building watchtowers here, so I'll show you how easy it actually is. It's very easy to spot. It's not very hidden. It's going to have a flag, and there's a reason why you want a flag, and I'll talk about that later as well. So if this was the kind of base that you were building out in the open on official, be prepared that you will have to defend it, and you may need multiple lines of defense to defend a base like this, and you would need to spend an awful lot of time here repairing it and making sure that people aren't quietly and slowly sabotaging it. Bearing in mind that in DayZ, any base, no matter how good you think it is, will be broken by a dedicated crew of people. Okay? That's bases. So where do you want to build it? I've built flat area. Flat areas are good because all of these things here, posts, uneven ground, trees, bushes, all of these kinds of things here they really cause problems when you're trying to build a base. They cause problems in trying to get the base laid. They cause problems in trying to build the base because you may think, yes, okay, I've laid something down, but then you build it and you can't, because you might be okay to build something down here, but the collision box for the upper bit collides with the tree. So when you actually try and build it up, it won't let you build it up because it collides with the tree. So all of these features that you see have what we call collision boxes, and that means that the placement of things that you need to build your base is severely hampered by all these collision boxes. So if you wanted to, say, build a base in here, that's all well and good. This is a problem because this is low hanging. So this you're probably not going to be able to build up here because this tree is in the way. You then have these boxes which are larger than you think they are, and we'll have a look at those soon. And then you have this thing that you need to build around and various other bits and pieces. You may have, like over there, you may have like fallen down trees, you may have rocks, you may have a bunch of things. You could build a very small base in here. You know, you could. Yeah, and you can use the trees to your advantage because, like I said, with watchtowers and people trying to build to climb over, if you build between two trees and you can do it, and you've got the space to do it, and it doesn't collide with these boxes that are above it, then that makes it harder for people to break into your base. So you can make the use of some spaces. Hills, slopes like this can be problematic as well. So you're generally going to be looking for somewhere flat if you're out in the wilds. If you're in a building, completely different scenario, and we'll cover some building builds later in this series. But for right now, let's talk about what we need to start with. And one of the first things you need to start with is a fence kit. But what is a fence kit? Well, a fence kit is 2 sticks and a bit of rope combined, right? And that gives you a fence kit. And the fence kit is the starting point of all things base. Which brings us on to item number 2. Now that we have somewhere that we think we're going to build, what are we going to need to build it? Well, the first thing you need is a fence kit. Now, the fence kits are recoverable once you start building the actual fence. The fence kit pops out and you can reuse it again and again. That's kind of fine unless you're doing something like that. And that required me to do an awful lot of layout to get that situation the way it is. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's assume we go back to these trees and we have our fence kit. Once you have your fence kit in your hand and you're in your area where you think you're going to build your little base in this clump of trees, you hit R2, and R2 will give you this feature. When it's in close, you'll see it's kind of translucent, so you can see through it, right? That means it won't let me place it there. And you can see in the bottom left it's saying choose placement, which means I can't place it. But as it goes out, you'll see it goes this sort of white color and it says deploy. So this is going to let me deploy this. Now, a couple of things to note here is, especially on uneven ground, look at the length of the bases here. This gives you an indication of where the posts are going to be. The sticks themselves stick out of the posts in the center, right? Important when it comes to placing things together. But it gives you a kind of a height difference to say, well, here's okay, here's okay, here's not okay. The height difference at this point is too high between the left and right sides. It isn't going to let you build this way. It'll let you build this way, but it won't let you build this way, right? This slope here is too steep a slope for you to build on. If you want to build, you're either going to be building here or you're going to be building like this. When you get up close to trees, you'll see, oh, it's gone. So I can build up to here maybe, a little closer, but I can't get any closer. And there's no guarantees that if I put it there that will build. Just have a look at this one. So this one here, it doesn't like the fact that there's this tree here. The ground is flat enough. Look, we can do it. We can kind of do it over here. But now we get in a bit closer. No, it doesn't like that. We can maybe do it. No, won't like that. So while you think that you should be able to build it here, it's clipping or colliding with the various bits of the tree above you. So you can't build it through a tree. That isn't going to work. You can't build it through this tree. You could build it on this side of the tree. I can build it on that side of the tree. I can build it around the tree. But I've got this tree in the way. You know, if I wanted to try and build it in here, that's fine. I can build a fence in there. But there's big gaps. There's going to be big gaps on the side. And you know what people do in gaps? Well, they shoot through gaps. So people can stand on the outside of your base and shoot in as easy as you can shoot out. So you would then need to do something else. You can then perhaps build a triangle around a tree and accommodate it that way, and then have a wall and have a triangle. So now you're building out around the tree. Or clip the corner and clip the corner of the tree, so you've got the tree on the outside, but you're coming on the inside. Those kinds of things. So when you're looking to lay out the bottom of your base, you need to think about all of these things, I would say, in advance. Don't just run up and go, I'm going to put wall there, whack. You really need to have a think about the area that you're going to build your base in, the size of the base you're going to need. What is its purpose? What is it for? If it's just for securely hoarding things, is it the best way to do it? If you really want something that's going to store vehicles, like over there, you got big vehicles, you're going to want to have lots of storage for lots of gear, you're going to need a big base, you're going to need to sit down and have a think about it. And we'll talk about my creative process and coming up with that base. So that would be it's kind of like an extension of point one. I've found the place. I've got my fence kit, which is the basis of almost everything. I'm going to go and have a look at it. Now, just a couple of things perhaps on this. You'll see here when you're looking at it, you see that we've got the poles. We've got the string line, which indicates exactly where the fence panels are going to go on the fence kit. And on the poles, you'll see there's like a little notch and a little hanger out front. That's out front. So I'm looking from interior of the wall. That's important because the interior of the wall is not the protected side. The protected side is the exterior. If, for whatever reason, you want to change the angle, you can use up and down on your D-pad to change the angle any way you want. It goes in increments, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 increments to the 180. So it's going in 30 degrees. So there you go. 12 turns to go a complete 360. So if you want to mess around with the angle placement, I can do this. I'm now standing on the outside. So if I want to bump it up in here because I want to see what it's like from the outside, I can do that and say, right, this is going to be an outside panel and I'm going to go around the other way. Or you're having problems trying to get a panel in place because you want it to be closer to the tree, but the tree's in the way. Well, then what you need to do is you need to go on the other side, turn your panel around and say, well, I can get in closer there from this side than trying to build it on this side because there's a tree in the way. So we do have options in terms of placement of these kinds of bits and pieces. The fence kit is not the only thing you can build. What you can build is something else called a watchtower kit, and this is it in my hand here. And the watchtower kit is much larger, and it's going to create a 3-sided structure, open on one side, with steps inside that take you up to the top to create a watchtower. There are 4 watchtowers on that build down there, and we'll be having a look at those as we go. But you can see that it's quite large. It's quite a large structure, and it's fine. It comes with 3 walls. I mean, you don't have to do much more. You could put a watchtower and a couple of connecting walls, one of which could be a gate, and you could have yourself a tidy little place to hang out if that's what you do. And you can build under watchtowers. Sorry, you can store things under watchtowers, and if you build your watchtowers up, you can absolutely store things on upper floors. Not a problem. It's exactly the same, and if you want to turn it around and have a look at it, it is exactly the same. But it will not like certain things because there are things in the way, and it'll say, no, I'm not going to build there. No, not going to build on that slope. And the other thing you have to bear in mind with watchtowers is they do go up, and you're going to end up clipping into trees and all kinds of things. So that's watchtowers. Just do be aware of watchtowers. You're saying to yourselves, wait, didn't he say gates? What about gates? Uh, you need to start with a fence to make a gate. And we'll go over that as we go, but everything starts with fences and watchtowers, and then we move on. There's not actually that much to base building in DayZ, and a lot of people have talked about that, and I'm not going to get into it. But basically, there's a fence kit, which when it's built, you can add wire to make a gate, and that's fine. Or it's a fence, or you have a watchtower. That's really it. There's no other real options. So when you've got your wood here and you're making stuff, it's 2 wood, 1 rope gets you a fence kit. I think with the watchtower, it is 4 wood and 1 rope gets you a watchtower. And if you want to build a flagpole, it's 3 wood and 1 rope for a flagpole kit. And we'll go and have a look at that now. Why do you need a flagpole, you're saying? I mean, it's nice and all. The Salty Crew definitely has the Skull and Crossbones flag. But why do you want a flagpole? And we'll do flagpoles completely separately towards the end because they are a bit of a mission in and of themselves. But the reason you want a flagpole is this flag will keep everything within 60 meters of this flagpole, which is mine, from despawning. So all of the stuff in the drums, in the tent, there's a drum, there's a chest, there's my truck, there's my Hummer, there's another little car over there ferrying some stuff around. That's a fire barrel for making fires, cooking food. Everything within 60 meters of this, which is quite a distance. I reckon if I'm taking a 1.5 meter run, I got 45 of these. That's about 60 meters. That's a long way. So anyway, back at the flagpole, you have build one of these with 3 and a stick. So let's take the watchtower apart, and we can just take the rope off. We can take one of those. We'll split that. That's a 2. We'll split that. That's a 3. We'll combine. We'll go here. We'll find where our rope went to somewhere. It's over there. There we go. Flagpole kit. Right, flagpole kit. Looks a little bit like this. Triangle. So it's obviously a kind of a triangular build. It's obviously wood and rocks and things all jammed together in a funky kind of way. So this is what this looks like. It's a little bit stranger because you can't actually turn it. So I can't turn it. And it kind of spins in a weird kind of way, as you can see, as I rotate. So it's kind of rotating around me. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know what the rules are about why it does that. Probably something to do with the underlying structure of the base map. I have no idea. But you can't, in any other way, prevent it from doing this rotational turn, which is very nice and kind of funky. But probably going to make you sick, so I'm going to stop it right now. Right, so there you go. That's the different kind of stuff that you can build with. Right. Now, something else you need to know of before you get started is, okay, you've got some sticks right here. You got some rope right here. You found a place to put your base right here. How are you going to do this kind of thing? How are you going to lay this out? How are you going to build this? How are you going to make this happen? Well, it's not nearly as simple as it appears, sadly. Let's take our fence kit. We want to put down a fence. Okay. How straight do you want it? I mean, this is obviously straight, but do you want it? Do you want it straight north-south? Do you want it east-west? Do you want it at an angle? Um, how do you know? And does it matter to you? Is there something that you want to make it parallel to? You know, these are the kinds of questions that you might want to ask yourself. For this build here, you can see I've got a relatively straight line that way, and I've also got a relatively straight line that way. I achieved that by finding a line. This is a line. This is a parallel line here, down at the edge, more or less. Or I can try and do it more or less along the edge of the railroad track. Not to build, but to give myself a straight line. Once I've got a straight line, as long as I move straight and don't turn, so I can go this way and I can go that way, I know that this is going to be parallel to the train tracks, if that's important to me. So I can lay it down in the ground. And this is what you get. You get this texture thing happens when it's laid on the ground, and it's right there. And I've got this, and it's pretty much in line with my my original fence, and it's pretty much along the same line as my original fence, and that's great. What if I wanted to make this a nice straight wall? What do I do with that? Well, get yourself another fence kit is what you do, and that's a flagpole kit. Another fence kit. And what you do is you have a look and you say, well, in this instance, I've made the wall that way. So the wall is facing out. So that's okay. I can do that. And what you do is you line up on your original wall and say, that's about as lined up on my original wall as possible. So all I have to do is walk sideways. Walk sideways, walk sideways. Ignore all the jiggery pokery of switching around. And try and have a look where the poles strike in the center. So if I come here and place this down, I think this is going to be relatively straight. There's the texture change. You go. That looks pretty good, right? I mean, that's a pretty straight wall. I don't mind saying. Is there going to be a gap here? Only a little. Because, like I said, the actual center of the poles are marked out, and the poles are much wider than these little sticks. So you'll get a gap, but it won't be a huge gap. It will be a manageable gap. And that's a straight line. That's probably the only thing that we've got to be able to make a straight line. Now, you might have yourself a watchtower kit. So I took one of my sticks away, so let me put one of my sticks back. I'll combine that, and I'll combine it with the rope, and I'll make myself a watchtower kit. Say you wanted to make a lovely right angle that you wanted to go down. How would you do that? Well, one of the ways that you could do that is with a watchtower kit, bearing in mind that you could always take a watchtower kit down later. So let's just use this as an example here. So I can see that I've got those poles in the distance. It's kind of hard to line up. What I might have to do is line it up sideways instead. And you're trying to get to a stage where you can sort of line up. You may need to go third person on this. And some people might say, oh, that's cheating, or oh, that's this, or oh, that's the other. I mean, it's entirely up to you, but let's say that's what you wanted. And I think that that's a relatively straight line. It's kind of hard to see, but it's relatively straight line. The lights have just gone out, but I think we can put that there. You might find you need to do that, and we just need to line up like that. There's a storm coming. Let's wait for the textures to come back in. Right, now then, where's my line? Kind of a bit harder to see, but we're still in a straight line. So this is my line here, still straight. It may not be perfectly straight, but it's darn good. And I tell you what, it's got a right angle to it. This right angle here is very believable. So then what I can do is I can get this, which is another fence kit, and I can do the same as I've been doing here and doing previously, which is line up on the rope that's parallel. right about there, I think. And I can come out here and I can build that. Let's check it. This is my line. This is my line. That's a pretty solid corner. Now, if you wanted, this is just 2 fence lengths. So what you can actually do is you can take the watchtower away, because you can come in here and it says fold. And I can take this watchtower kit away. And if I wanted, what I could do instead is I can take a fence kit and connect it here, as I've been doing, and a fence kit and connect it here, as I've been doing, and I should more or less be able to get a nice tight right angle corner. So there you go, straight lines and right angle corners. Anything else after that is kind of up to you. I mean, I guess the way I did this build this time was with some squared paper. You know, the reality is that I got some squared paper, and did I just pick that fence kit straight up? That's a bit weird. And I drew it all out on squared paper. And it didn't matter what scale, as long as the scales are consistent, they're consistent. So if you want to build something, you know, that's a star pattern or whatever, then, you know, fantastic, great, go ahead. But sketch it out on paper first and see if it actually matches up. Because the minute you try and build it on the ground, you need to be 100% accurate. Now, what I've said to you already is, you know that when you're placing a fence kit, you're getting a 30-degree angle. So if you have the appropriate graphics tools, whether you're doing it on a computer or whether you're doing it by hand or whether you're doing it whatever, you can do a 30-degree angle, and you know exactly what kind of shapes you can build, and then you can lay out the shapes that you want to lay out, build the structures that you want to build, and hey presto, you've got yourself something that you can then bring into the game and translate into something on the ground. So that's essentially what I did here and laid this out. And did it go perfectly the first time? No, of course it didn't. Of course it didn't. I had to go through and modify some things, and you see that some things don't quite line up 100% perfectly. There's individual little glitches. The ground looks flat-ish, but it's not completely flat. And there's bumps and there's things, and there's dips, and the way that some of the things clash together, there's quite a sizable hole here. No one's going to climb through it, but could they shoot through it? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they could, but you know, we could do something about that. We could put an internal screening panel in here. We could put another wall outside. We could do a whole bunch of things to do that, and we may well do that in the future. So yeah, not perfect. I haven't seen any bases that are perfect anywhere. I've seen lots of very, very good ones. Trying to close the gaps is probably the key on a lot of them, and in some places it works out pretty well. I think like this one worked out pretty well. Managed to get them kind of back to back, side to side, being careful that they can't shoot inside through the gaps and things like that. You know, that this worked out pretty. I don't think you can actually shoot through this. I think you can see through it, but I don't think you can shoot through it. So yeah, so there's all those kinds of bits and pieces that you need to pull together before you can even think about putting things in the ground. And what's that gonna need? Right, I have here on my left my barrel with a lot of my construction materials in it. These are some of the fundamental basic materials that you're gonna need to start building a base of some description or form or other. You're gonna need an axe of some description. A hatchet is good because it has a dual purpose as a hammer, which is kind of odd, but it has a hammer face on the back of it, so I get it. The animation's a bit clunky, and we'll go through that when I need to use it. But you do need a hatchet, pardon me, in part because you're going to need some logs, right? That means you're going to need sharpening stones because this is going to get damaged when you start cutting down logs. That's an absolute fact. And you're going to need hammers for building. Slightly better than a hatchet, I've found. While you can hammer with a hatchet, it changes condition state very quickly compared to a hammer. A hammer, designed as it is for hammering nails, keeps its condition an awful lot better when you use it for hammering. So I strongly suggest they're not very big, they're not very difficult to come across. Collect hammers, use hatchets for chopping wood. Yes, you can use it for building, but I advise using hammers for building and using hatchets for chopping. And that way you will get more out of your hatchet and you will get more out of your hammer. You're also going to need something to dig with. Now, that can be a shovel, which again, shovels are designed to dig, very, very good for digging. This one's in pristine condition. There's another trenching shovel that you can use. You can use the pickaxe for digging too, but it's less durable as the shovel, as a digging item. This is very good for rocks. We'll talk about rocks when we get to flagpoles. There's also something which isn't shown here, which is the hoe. The gardening hoe can still be used to build bases, and it's very, very good. There's a couple of limitations here. The limitation with the shovel is the shovel will wear out, it will change condition state, and there is no way that I know of to repair a shovel. The pickaxe, which weighs 18 and is very good for rocks, but also works for digging, can be sharpened with a sharpening stone, which is great because you only need one pickaxe and then you can use sharpening stones. A pickaxe weighs 18, sharpening stones weigh 2, so you can carry around a lot of sharpening stones and only one pickaxe, and then you're saving yourself a lot of time and space and weight. The hoe, I think, takes up a capacity of 14. I said weighs 14, takes up a capacity of 14, and it can also be sharpened. So I often prefer to get the hoe rather than the pickaxe, unless I need the pickaxe for pickaxing rocks. If you're going to be going down the road of flagpoles, you're probably also going to want to get a sledgehammer, and by probably I mean definitely. You cannot build a flagpole without a sledgehammer. It's one of its other few uses besides being a melee weapon. It isn't just here for melee purposes, it does have construction purposes. What else are you going to need? You're going to need saws. There's this type of saw, there's the other hacksaw type of saw. They're both equally as durable, I feel. They both can be sharpened, which is great because it means that you can make them last a long, long time. And you're going to need them for chopping planks. Now, you're either going to be chopping planks off a wood pile in an industrial area, which is pretty quick and will net you a lot of planks, or you're going to be sawing up logs, which is less quick, but you will get a certain amount of planks from logs, and it's another way to do it if you're building out in the middle of the woods somewhere and you don't have access to a large vehicle like a truck where you can cart a lot of planks around. You're also going to want wire, and I also don't have in this barrel, but I do have in another barrel, some pliers. The wire you need for the gate, and you also need pliers for the gate. I've also got here a bale of barbed wire. Barbed wire is very useful if you want to put some barbed wire on the top of the gate. And if I come over here, you'll see I've got some further tools here. I've got a felling axe, splitting axe, which is fantastic once it's sharpened up for chopping down big trees. I've got the hacksaw version, saw, which I can still use, and I've got a variety of pliers, and I've got nails, and I've got wire. So I've got all of my supplies here that I need to start building all of this stuff. Right. So I've let that rain go past. So once you've laid out what you're going to build, and once you've made sure that you've got all your tools together, what does it look like in terms of actually having to construct something like this? Well, if I come over to this fence kit here, when you put the fence kit on the ground, you'll see it's only got base, and it's got room for 2 logs. So what you need to do is you need to go and get your logs from the trees, and you need to bring them down here. Now, on my Livonia base build, and I'll link the video below, I went through all of the kind of different types of trees and the amount of logs you get from different kinds of trees, and which trees you should probably prefer over others. Um, the durability of tools in making planks from logs and various bits and pieces. So I'm not going to cover that here. You can go and have a look at that base build video for some more technical input. I mean, certainly here you got a lot of these deciduous trees. They're not super great for logs. You probably want to go and find pine. To be honest, pine trees seem to be a little bit better in producing you lots of logs. But anyway, you can go and do that. If you've got a vehicle, go to somewhere where there's loads of pine, cut them down, stuff them in your vehicle, bring them here. Bring them here, stick them on the ground, attach them to your fence. I'll show you how if I pick this one up. So we'll pick this one up. When you come up to your fence, you'll see there's a thing that says R2 attach, and you attach it to the fence. Make sure you attach it to the fence. Don't just drop it on the ground. If you drop it on the ground like anything else dropped on the ground, it could despawn. If you attach it to the fence, it doesn't. So here, for example, I put some nails down here. I don't know, about 16 hours ago. And they're still here because they're attached to a construction element. So yeah, so once you do that, what you're going to need is a shovel. I need to go and grab my shovel, which is over here in my drum. Sorry, open drum. Got my shovel. So you get your shovel or your pickaxe or your hoe or whatever it is, and you approach your fence, and you see it says build base. So let's build the base. For this base that I have done here, this admin base, I have 14 wall panels, 2 of which will be gates, and 4 watchtowers, and I used 1 shovel for the whole lot. And it barely changed the condition state. So shovels, pretty good, pretty handy things to have. I'm just going to drop this here so we can have a look at this. So once you've built this in, you'll see that your wall kit pops out, your fence kit pops out. You can take that away and reuse it. And now we have a different set of parameters here. So, right, so once you've put this in the ground, you've obviously now got this to work with. And in terms of what you need here, you'll see that it has capacity. Well, let's have a look at it from the top. So the top, you have these attachments. So you have the camo net, you have barbed wire at the bottom of the fence, barbed wire at the top of the fence. You have room for 99 nails, room for 20 planks, room for 20 metal sheets, and some wire. You don't need all of this to actually. Before you think, I need how many nails? You don't need that many nails. This is like a storage capacity. I don't quite know why it's 99 nails. For building the wall, you'll need 36 nails. So I'm not entirely sure why it's like that. Also, for the planks, you don't need 20 planks. You need 18 planks, and I think it's the same for metal sheets. I can't remember for metal sheets off the top of my head, but we'll look into that when I get to metal sheets. So yeah, so don't think that this is the absolute maximum you need, because it isn't the absolute maximum you need. But you will need some nails, and you will need some planks or metal sheets. It's not planks and metal sheets. And the wire you only need if you're going to make it into a gate. These attachments are things that you attach at the end, and they're nice to haves for rounding off your base in terms of camouflage or defense. In particular, the defense side of things is often very handy. But yeah, so that's what you need. So you're going to need to go and get all of these things, and you're going to need to bring them back so that you can construct your base, right? So how do you get planks, you say? Well, let's have a look at 2 ways to get planks. So let's grab this wooden log, and we'll dump this wooden log on the ground right here, and we'll grab our saw. So when you grab a saw next to a wooden log, you'll see you've got a couple of options. You can make firewood, or you can make wooden planks. We want to make the wooden planks. It's not exactly the right animation, but maybe they'll sort that out. So there you go, 1 log, 4 planks. That's what you get out of a log. Out of a log, you get 4 planks. You always get 4 planks. I've always gotten 4 planks. 4 planks is what you get. You attach that to your fence, and you've got 4. I've already filled this up with nails, but I need 16 more planks to do this. And then I need to go and do all of these. before we can move into construction, which will be the next of these. But before I do that, just want to show you another way to get planks. Right, so here's the other way to get planks. So take your vehicle, this is my vehicle, to an industrial area where you've seen these things called lumber piles. And you'll see that it says 252 of 252. And I have a saw in my hand. So what you do is you approach this, and it says cut planks. Let's cut some planks. Keep a very close eye on the condition state of your saw. There we go. We got 3 piles of, sorry, we got 2 piles of 10 and another one. I'm gonna want some more. I'm watching the condition of my saw. There we go. We're down into badly damaged now. So there you go. We've started out with a very good condition saw. We're down now to badly damaged. We've got 10, 20, 30, 45. You could probably get 50 at a squeak, but then you're going to run out of saw, and I don't want to run out of saw, and I've got enough planks. So if you don't want to chop down trees, and it does this lovely Red Hot Chili Peppers pattern on the floor, by the way. If you don't want to if you don't want to chop down trees and saw them up for planks, take a vehicle, find a lumber pile, and do this. It's an awful lot faster. Right, so now you know how to get started. You know how to make the various wall kits and watchtower kits. We covered how to lay them out, some of the do's and don'ts and problems you have when you're trying to do it in woodland. Even some of the problems here, it's not entirely flat. You can see it's got a bit of a slope to it. But we managed to lay this out. It fits pretty tight in some places, like here, but in other places there's gaps and things, like over here, which we'll have a look at the end. We've gone over the kinds of tools you need, the kinds of resources that you need. We've gone over how to acquire those things and how to attach them to the walls and various other bits and pieces. So the only thing left for me to do is now run around and top all of this up, and then what we'll do is we'll bring you back for some construction. I hope you like it. Do click like. Do subscribe to the channel. Do click the bell notification. And if you have any questions, comments, or tips or tricks of your own, do please let us know. We'll see you soon. Ta-ta for now.
PlayStation